why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, to where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Yay! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this here episode 36 of the Degen Roundtable Book Club, where we're going to be covering Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. This book was so fucking good that I actually went out and bought a physical copy. As you guys, for those of you who don't know, my name is Will Stevenson. I'm one of the hosts here on the Degen Roundtable. I am joined today by some fantastic guests. We got Zenith, my co-host, and also another fellow host of the Degen Roundtable. He hosts a lot of shows. He talks about macroeconomics. He does a little bit of TA here and there. He's just a cool jack of all trades, master of none. We've also got Farmer Jay. He's our resident electrician and smart man enthusiast. He likes to play it off like he's just having a cool time and having fun, but he's actually quite a brilliant dude. You guys should check out and listen to the things that he says. We've got our producer, Mrs. McGettit. Mrs. McGettit holds the strings together and is basically the glue behind the DRT, keeping us all locked on and making sure that we get our timelines right, we get our links made, we get our thumbnails set, we're switching cameras, bringing up the chat. She does everything. So we're glad to have her on the show as well, and she has some good insights from time to time. And finally, we've got the ascending man himself, Nate McGettit of the Degen Roundtable. Nate, we're going to go ahead and start with you. What's new and exciting with you? Or actually, I'll give you a little bit of an intro first before I ask you what's up. So Nate is... he's a resident expert on liquidity providing. He jumps around in a lot of different cryptocurrency ecosystems. He looks into Phantom. He looks over at dang it! I'm running out of names. Damn it!
Pulse-chain, Base, Ethereum,
Pulse-chain, Base,
AVAX.
That's
Clayton.
the one. AVAX. That's the one I was trying to think of. The fucking snow one. But anyways, and we got Nate. He hops around a lot of different ecosystems. He goes and talks to people and stuff. And yeah. So this is our cool ass panel. We're going to talk about this book, Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. I highly, highly, highly recommend that everyone read this book. It's super, super duper helpful. I can't we're going to get into it tonight. You guys are going to find out. But if you ever have a problem with forgetting stuff, or you don't know where to find information, or you don't know what you're doing, or you're just you think that your life's a jumbled up mess and you're just always grasping at straws trying to figure stuff out. Tiago has built a really cool system, and he's got a website, he's got a course, he's got all sorts of great things, and he's not paying me to say any of this. This is all pro bono. So Tiago, if you're listening, shout out to you, broski. I really appreciate what you've done and what you've built here. But before we get into the book and everything, let's check out what's going on with the panel and what's new and exciting with them, starting with Nate McGettit. We normally start with the co-host. Right down here, Zenith, but I'm going to do it a little bit different this time. We're going to start with Nate. Bro, what's new and exciting with you, man? What'd you think of this book?
Oh, this book was fantastic. So I know that Genius TV over here is literally just use notes on an iPhone or Keynotes. It's yeah, that's one step. There's a lot of other things that he's implementing though that helps you not only take down the notes, which is what you're talking about, but also able to find them on a dime, bam. So it's one of the most fascinating things about this that really got me thinking, and it was right away in the book is the saying that the brain is used for ideas, not for storage. And I was like, wow, I've been doing it wrong all my life. I always thought I was stupid because I'm terrible at recollecting things, right? I'm just awful at it, but there's a lot of room up here for knowledge. But I tend to go on a rant if I start releasing that knowledge. It's not like somebody can just say something else. I'm like, hey, what about this and that? So this really hit home for me. And there's a really good system here. That's the point of the book, is that it's an entire system, with many different steps. So I want to implement the system myself, because as of currently, I do believe that we're a little bit on information overload as far as our human brains go, because we still have the primordial human brain over here, right? The ancient human brain. And
Mhm.
dude, we're not set up for all the information that the internet has to provide that is just thrown in our face constantly. So this is a good way, a good method to really start like trying to expand and or hyper well, to help out, I'll just say, just make it easy, right? To help out our ability to be able to remember and recollect just things that we we throw in here, you know?
Bro,
And
it's some good systems and stuff, man. And
it's fantastic.
you're 100% right. The fucking like we're still living in like the as far as our like our firmware and our hardware is concerned, we're still living in like trees and chasing after angry monkeys with sharp sticks or whatever to try and like, you know, secure the next meal. So like living in this technology age, like we basically have to use tools to in order to go places and do things. So excellent, broski. Good to hear that you're doing good. This is the producer. We're going to throw it over to you next. What is new and exciting with you? And do you have any thoughts on this book, or did anything stand out as you were flipping the pages and perusing around?
Hi. As for new things with me, sorry, I'm a little discombobulated right now. Soren started kindergarten this week, so that has
Nice.
been. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. Still, so far he seems to be doing well, so there's that, and then I guess we'll see how that goes. Other than that, I've been dealing with a lot of online people who are getting pretty annoying, and that's what I was doing right before the stream. So that's why I'm a little bit like, woo, my brain's not all here yet, but getting it together.
Well,
As for the book, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'll tell you what, we're gonna have a lot more fun of a time here dealing with the Degen Roundtable than you dealing with your rowdy and unruly group of Pokemon and collectibles and all those other folks over there. So we're gonna have a much better time here. I'll promise you that much. But
Good to hear.
please continue with what you were saying.
I look forward to that. I didn't get to read this one, but I did watch a bunch of like YouTube videos on it and kind of got like, you know, the main concepts at least. I think what Nate was saying pretty much hit the nail on the head. I am an extremely forgetful person, unfortunately. There's something called mom brain when you have a kid, and for some people it goes away. For some people, you have it for the rest of forever. And I seem to be one of those people who's just like permanently got that going on. So I forget things a lot. I have like 80 post-it notes up on my little desk here for like stuff I need to do, and then they get put there and then they get forgotten. So I think implementing some of these ideas could be super helpful for that, and probably for a lot of other people too. So I'm really excited to hear what everybody thinks about it. And I think I'm gonna have to go back at some point and listen to the actual audiobook, you know, in whole, instead of just all these little shortcuts.
I like it. I'm definitely gonna re-listen to it myself as well. I gotta say, like during the I wanted to make sure that I did this hosting justice, because there's times where I'll like consume a book once or twice for book club, just in like the audible version or the audible version, and then go like listen to some summaries somewhere. But this one, like, no joke, I've listened to this book probably about five or six times, twice today, over the last like week, and then I had listened to it once long ago before, and that's why I remembered it and why I wanted to do it for book club. But it's definitely one that like you pick out more parts of it every time that you consume it. And I gotta say that, like, I think the next time I actually listen to it, I'm gonna go through it slowly. And I'm gonna actually like sit there. I brought a highlighter with me, is how much I fucking like this book. I normally don't like consume the actual physical book itself, but I'm definitely gonna be rereading this, and it's gonna be a good time. So shout out to you, and I'm glad to hear that you're gonna be going through that process with me. So it'll be a good time. Farmer J Broski, what is new and exciting with you, and what did you think about this book as you were perusing the pages and listening with the ear holes and things?
It is hot as hell, first of all. So I will be getting up multiple times to grab me some Coors Light like Zenith. It's too hot to drink an IPA today. Oh yeah, man, it's about 93 degrees where I'm sitting at right now. It's hot. It was uncomfortable all day. It's going to be like this the rest of the week. But the book, I actually listened to it a couple times. I found it kind of difficult just because I am a very disorganized person. I write stuff everywhere, and like I have my ideas scattered. But actually, while Nate was talking and making his introduction, I actually ordered a physical copy of the book, because I actually need to go over it and like actually need to organize. Like it breaks down very well how to organize things, right? But me being a very disorganized person. I just have scattered thoughts everywhere, and usually something bugs me in my brain, and I'm thinking I'm gonna forget it until I write it down somewhere. The problem is I usually write it down and I forget where I put it, and it's like misplacing it. And having an actual digital copy of your thoughts and writing them down and organizing the way he his method seems like something that's actually pretty useful, right? So I'm actually gonna go over the book again and try it. Try that method. Like I said, I found the book very kind of difficult just because I don't organize everything. I have just scattered thoughts all over the place. But
Yeah.
I really should. This is a very good book as far as organizing. Like if you don't have a system you created yourself, a system that works for you, like following his system seems to be very effective of organizing your thoughts and ideas. And instead of keeping them in your head and having them bother you, because I think we all have that problem, right? When you have things in your head and you don't get them out, they seem to sit there and linger in the back of your head and probably distract you from things you should be doing. And instead of like trying to remember these things that you can actually put down somewhere, instead of them being in the back of your brain. So I think I'm gonna, like I said, I ordered the book. It should be here on Sunday, and I'm probably gonna go over again, and I'm probably gonna go get me a nice big highlighter.
Fuck yeah, bro! I love to hear it. I'm
No,
glad. I'm glad that this book is making a difference. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to
And then
agree with Farmer.
we also
Farmer
still
too.
got Zenith to intro, so don't make it too long.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna be too long. I just want to say, I got the same problem, man, to the point where like my system is basically just a bunch of Telegram rooms, and I just start throwing a bunch of shit in there, but then they get lost, and it's like So I'm happy with this book,
bro. So man, a quick note on that: you can actually make folders with Telegram. I think you can make up to. I don't remember what the number is with the regular account, but if you buy the premium account for $30 a year, it's like I think you can have up to like 30 or 40 folders or something like that. And that's exactly what I do, bro. Is I use, like, you guys see my second brain whenever it comes to book club stuff, because I'm literally just writing everything down, just regurgitating it all in the Telegram book club. So that is my raw version of the second brain, specifically focused on the book club and stuff. But anyways, enough about.
I was just gonna say quickly on speaking of Telegram Premium. If you do it on your actual computer or your phone, there's a price difference. So I forgot which one's cheaper, but I was checking them out, and there was a difference in price. I mean, it wasn't much; it was like $6-8, but it was still one option was cheaper than the other. So whatever
that's
it was,
DCA money, bro.
Yeah, there you go. You can buy some DRT with those $6.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Speaking of DRT, we got another member of the Degen Roundtable. We're going to introduce our very own co-host, Mr. Zenith. What's up, bro? What's new and exciting with you? And what are your thoughts on building a second brain by Tiago Forte?
I was actually unironically looking at the DRT chart earlier today, and I was like, we are pumping. That's weird. Yeah, it turns out it's just this guy, so nobody go buy that. But no, it's a good book, but I hate to be the splash of cold water on this and say that a man took 8 hours of an audiobook to describe the note-taking process that I think most of us have used since elementary school. But at the same time, it's good stuff. It's very good stuff. I'm partially called out because I do the inefficient version of note-taking, which is I have what I like to call the JO journals, aka just these green books, although they've become black books with stickers on them in my adult years, of just anything and everything. It's pretty much just like the scribbles of a daily work journal. So anything and everything usually just has date at the top of the page, and then I just any meeting, any notes, anything that some random person told me in the PWA that I need to go take care of. It's that kind of stuff as well. And then doodles, engineering drawings, that kind of stuff also finds its way in there. And then even as far as I will say I did feel slightly called out by this book, because this book is you need to learn how to not use paper and be analog, after I literally just wrote a rule set for a board game I'm developing, and then I hand made all of the different little tokens for it too, and then play tested it this week. And then I read this book and it's like, wow, you're an idiot. And I'm like, thanks, Tiago. Really appreciate that.
Hey, Zenith, these are just the ones on my desk. Nope. Yeah, these are just the ones on my desk. So you and me, brother. I do the same, but it's kind of hard to keep track of all. Like I said, I lost so many notes and stuff. I don't know where half the crap I wrote is at. I got more notebooks sitting there and there and there and here.
Oh, I hear you. Like I specifically have a work one, and I this week had to go look up what the model number on an HVAC system for a building was that I did a walk down for like a month ago, and I had to like flip through each of the pages to find the notes from that specific walk down, and it's like, if these were digitized, it might be a lot easier, but that's neither here nor there. Good book overall. I wish it was slightly less than 8 hours, but at the same time, it was still a good read, and I think there were some really good points, especially some high-level thoughts. For anybody that listened to the Sci-Fi chapter where Richard Hart was talking about, don't be a memory storage bank, be a synthesizer yourself, aka be the thing that puts ideas together. This book is that idea on steroids.
Scale of 1 to 10. Would you recommend it to new people? Or scale the 10,000 hours, the 10,000 hour scales. We normally do this part at the end of the show. But what do you think?
I'll call it a 1,000 to 2,000 hours scale.
Really?
Yeah. Well, some of the things. Is this fundamental base level stuff? I would argue yes, but at the same time, one of the main principles of the book that we will, I'm sure, talk about today is you gotta be able to highlight the important sections and not just highlight the entire book, which is that if you are taking notes, you need to identify the important parts instead of just everything or nothing. You got to be able to have that level of discernment. So that's why I put it above the 1,000 hours mark, because whatever you're trying to accomplish, I think you need a base level of understanding before this kind of system becomes useful and applicable. Because, I mean, I know it's not 100% efficient, but to get the most out of it, I think you need to be burned a little bit by physical paper note-taking before you can really get the full effect of the proposed methods in here, which is that you're going to try to write down everything, or you're going to try to write down nothing, and then you're going to end up in either something that's empty or useless. And you don't want either of those standpoints from my perspective. That's what I got.
Okie dokie. Excellent. Nate, do you have a thought for like where on the scale of 0 to 10,000 hours a person should be reading this book or anything like that? And then Farmer J and Mrs. McGettit, I'll toss this question to you too as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting when he starts going into your what's the word for just your brain? Your brain knows that you did it, but you didn't. What was that called? Oh my God, forgetting that word. Hey man, if only I had notes for that. But yeah, no, when your brain automatically recognizes things, but you yourself don't even recognize that you recognize it, right? Intuitivity, whatever. Intuition. That's the word. Intuition.
Something based off of that.
Something based
please
on
continue.
It. Yeah, it's been a long day. You'll have to forgive me. So yeah, to rely mostly on your intuition when you're reading through things, to be like, hey, that's important, write it down, right? When you start getting that feeling of, and I think it's funny, he went into like feelings, but he's like, those feelings, listening to the inner self or whatever, it might be that it's important to you and you don't know that it's important,
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was an interesting idea, because like for me, I mean, I'm not exactly good at taking notes. I know that I want to take notes when I'm trying to remember something, but then like Farmer J over here, they just get lost, and then I forget about it, and then I forget that I even wrote it down, or that I need it, and then I got to go research everything that I had already written down. So yeah, no,
that's kind of one of the nice like benefits of the digital note taking and like cloud-based note taking is if you could have it cross-platform on several. That's why I like to use Telegram, and this is actually something that my brother Sam and I do. Is we will send each other things in our private message. That's really just like, hey, I need to move this image from my phone onto my computer, and I need to do it fast. So like I'm sending it to you, bro, and it's like, oh, that's cool as hell. So like finding a mechanism of taking like the physical copy stuff, like I do. Zenith, you remind me of those freaking green goddamn logbooks for all of my military members.
All different sizes, only one color.
Freaking logbooks. It's for those of you who are not in the military, it's a literal book. It's a hardcover book with paper in it, like just a normal spiral bound notebook, except it's just it's got a book spine and it's got a green cover that's like very like, oh, this is military green, and it says like logbook or something on the I don't remember what it says, but it's just like, this is like the standard military writing utensil thing, and they're those things. Yep, Yep, those goddamn things. But anyways, like these are just there's part and parcel to anyone's government career if you have to do anything DoD related or whatever. So thank you, Zenith. You brought up some terrible memories of me being
Little
being on
PTSD
duty.
in there.
Or me like having to, because it's all official stuff. Whenever you write it down, it's like, this is canon to the Marine Corps. This happened and you can't undo it. So it's like, and God forbid you mess up one page on a logbook, then you got to like rip that page out, redo the entire page on the next. It's a whole fucking nightmare. So anyways, Zenith has trudged up some terrible memories of me writing down, shooters that did a terrible job shooting or whatever the case may be, or
Look,
all
I'm
that
just saying,
stuff.
if you jack up on the first or second line of the log, it's okay because you only have to rewrite one or two lines. If you mess up the last line of the page, you are screwed. That is at least like a half hour right there going through redoing everything.
Oh man.
And you have to go get signatures if there are signatures on it.
Yep. Yeah, it's a fucking nightmare. So anyways, all that to say that like paper logbooks, if you're a former knuckle dragger or squid boy or air flyer or whatever the heck, then you probably recognize these things. But I want to toss the same question though over to Mrs. McGettit and Farmer J, and then we'll transition into chat shoutouts. What do you guys think about this book being on in a person's journey of scale to 0 to 10,000 hours? Mrs. McGettit, I'll throw it at you, or actually I'll throw it at Farmer J first because he's already unmuted, and then Mrs. McGettit will go to you next. Farmer, what do you think about this book? Is it for beginners? Is it for experts? Is it for medium folks? What are your thoughts?
Well, I would just say that it's good for anybody that's having issues organizing things, right? And it's more like a basic, I think like Zenith said it, right? It was just like a basic manual on how to do this thing particularly. So if you're looking to just organize your thoughts into a practical place, right, where you can retrieve these thoughts back and organize them properly. If you don't have a system, I think it's a good book for that. If you're not trying to do that, or you actually already have a system that works for you, then this book is probably useless to you. Like if you already have a system that works for you, you're like a big brain guy, or you have the ability to keep all these thoughts in your head and you can shift them around and you have that ability, this book's not really going to do anything for you. But it's that, to me, it was more of that kind of book that if you don't have the ability or you don't have a system to recollect your thoughts back how you want them or organize them, this book's pretty helpful at that. It seems more like an instruction manual to me more than anything on this particular thing.
I like it. It can be a bit tedious, and there's definitely something to be said for people solving things that have already been addressed or something like that. I kind of see it as like almost another tool to add into your toolbox. If you've already got a fantastic set of tools that works great, awesome. If not, then hey, this might be the screwdriver for you to help pry open that door or something. Mrs. McGettit, I want to toss it over to you now. What do you think about this book being on a person's journey in between 0 to 10,000? Where should it lie?
5. I'm going with 5.
5 hours? 5 hours in?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
5.
Right at the beginning. That's good.
Yep.
I'm inclined to agree with you. Like, is it an arbitrary number? Are there thoughts behind the 5? It's a good number, I think.
I just picked 5, but basically the idea is early on, because if, for example, in my personal case, if I had this kind of mindset going into some of our books, I'd probably have used these ideas to kind of start categorizing that stuff and keep it handy. So I think it would be good early on, personally.
That's a good that would be like helpful foundation building or whatever.
Yeah, basically it just helps keep things more organized right from the get-go, rather than having to go back through and do all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, excellent. I agree, and that's basically where my explanation more or less dovetails right along in that. I would say that this is something people should learn right at the beginning of their journey into adulthood and figuring out like like what they should be doing with their like professional career or like any sort of crazy hobby that they super duper enjoy. Like if they want to make a thing that they're doing better, whether it's you know a hobby, whether it's a profession, whether it's just something that's just like a flippant off the wall little bit of education or whatever the case may be, it can be made better by using a good tool in order to process and retain information so as to not like we'd said before, rely on the gray squishy bits and everything. So excellent. Alrighty, guys. Well, that concludes the panelists' thoughts on the books and also the introductions. And now it's time to introduce the chats. So we're going to go right on into chat shoutouts, everyone's favorite part of the show, where we say how much we appreciate you guys back home hanging out with us and doing all that good stuff. So let's see what we got up. Mrs. Producer, would you go ahead and pull up? Actually, Mrs. Producer, would you save Kenturian's question for last, and because we'll use that as the topic to like we can just jump right off into that as a topic of discussion and stuff. So we'll start with Mr. Genius TV rolling in. I'm a squirrel. Blah, blah. I'm a squirrel because I always. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't read that all the way through. Very good, sir. I'm glad that you have that. You're not going to get a soundbite of me saying it, but I was able to catch that towards the very end. So normally I just read through the chats and I don't even filter them, but you got lucky this time, or you didn't get lucky this time. So haha. Anyways, thank you. We appreciate your engagement, broski, Mr. Genius TV, and hopefully you have some excellent insights later that that are fun for me to read for the folks at home and things. I've definitely said worse stuff on stream, but you're not going to bait me that easily. Speaking of bait, we've got Funkmaster Hex. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you too, sir. My mother was kind enough to bring me a glass of whiskey for this stream. So I was in this fantastic bedroom getting set up and everything. And my mom walks in the door and she's like, "Hey, Will, I know it's not Whiskey Wednesday, but here's a glass for the show." And it was like, oh, that's so cool. So anyways, shout out to my mother out there if you're watching or if you're listening or doing all that good stuff. So, and also shout out to Funkmaster Hex. Speaking of Hex, we got Hexican Lost in Asia. D-Gents, top of the Hex day to you all. Top of the day to you too, good sir. It's good to see you, Mr. Hexican Lost in Asia. A classic member, a great fan of the show. He's been with us since like right up in the beginning, and I remember seeing him in chats all over the place. So shout out to you over there, Hexican. Good to see you, broski. All right. And now we've got two comments from Mr. Kenturian. So Kenturian, we'll go ahead and start with his original comment first, Mrs. Mageddit. He says, "Ahoy, Degens, what is your guys' favorite or most helpful note-taking app?" And then after that, he says, "Don't use these apps to save your seed phrases, but," oh goodness, one of my notifications on my laptop just popped up. I got to read it off my phone now. All right. "Don't use these apps to save your seed phrases, but useful for keeping track of liquidity pools and farms. Is your guys' note keeping regarding crypto going to change after this book?" I'll go ahead and start this off so the rest of the panel can think about it. One for like which apps are my favorite, and then two, is my crypto note taking going to change? I will say that my favorite app for note taking is Google Sheets, because I like Excel spreadsheets and I like that format of stuff. After Google Sheets, I like Telegram, because Telegram is it allows for me to like transfer data in between myself and other people as well. So you guys, you already know, or if you don't know, we have a Degen Roundtable book club at t.me/Degen book club. If you guys wish to join it, that's one of the things that I use as my second brain for doing book club stuff. Is I hop into that Telegram and I take all my notes like live as I'm listening to audiobooks. It's mostly just like they're not sound bites because I have it do voice to text, but it's just like as the audiobook is going on, I repeat what the person is saying if I really like the point that they're making. And sometimes I'll put a little bit of an extra spin on it. But I like to use Telegram. I like to use Google Sheets. And I'm in the near future, I'm going to be starting to use Microsoft One or Microsoft Note. I can't remember what it's called. But it was another one of the videos that I put in that DRT chat, where Tiago was talking to an Australian gentleman about different programs and different processes that can be used for note taking. And I really liked the product that they were showcasing, which was like Microsoft One or Microsoft Note. I can't remember the name of it, but it was super cool because it allows you to zoom out and zoom in on things, and it's basically just a big flat, like infinite canvas that you can write on. You can post pictures in, you can type in, you can have like voice memos, you can have hyperlinks that link to different like notes and different things. You can store those in folders, you can store those folders in journals, you can store those journals in other things. It's just a super duper thorough and like crazy complicated note-taking system. So to answer your first question, Kenturian, Google Sheets for like Excel spreadsheets that are online and always accessible between my phone, my computer, whatever I'm using. After Google Sheets is Telegram, and after that is Microsoft One, which I haven't actually started yet. So those are my favorite apps. I don't have one app that is my favorite in particular, but those are the combination. And then for your question about is my note taking regarding crypto going to change after reading this book, I'm going to say no, because I'm pretty careful with how I take my notes regarding everything cryptocurrency, whether it's like, you know, public addresses, whether it's private addresses, whether it's seed phrases, transactions, dates, sentiment, everything. I'm pretty thorough in that, and I don't think that there's any kinks in my armor. I will say that like you never do, like just as a general rule, never do anything electronic with seed phrases, just because like if you never do it, then it can't go wrong. Some people get keyloggers on their computers where like, you know, malicious actors can log your keys, and then they compare that keylog against the 2048 word set that makes up seed phrases and everything, and they can pick out the words that you log in there, and they can brute force your password to your wallets and everything. So the general rule of thumb is you never ever do anything electronic with your seed phrases. You don't take pictures of it, you don't send it in an email, you don't save it to the cloud, you don't upload it to your Facebook, you never even like type it. You know, you never put that stuff on an electronic thing that's connected to the internet if you suspect that any sort of malicious stuff is happening. Obviously, it's like a pinpoints chance that something's bad's going to happen, but like if you happen to have that bad thing happen to you and your entire wealth stack is gone, then it's like that's something to be very aware of. So I don't ever put seed phrases on anything that's online. I don't send it in emails. I don't type it. I don't take pictures of it. Nothing of that sort. So all of my cryptocurrency note-taking stuff is going to pretty much stay the same. Panel, what do you guys think? Do you guys have a specific note-taking app that you like, or do you have a process that you enjoy? Zenith, you had talked about using the logbooks and things. I want to toss it over to you. Do you do anything electronic? Do you ever take pictures of your books and use like AI to scan the words and extract those off the pages or anything?
No, everything that's in my books pretty much stays in my books. If I have something that I know I want to share with people, or I want to use between different computers or something, I'll go ahead and use Google Docs. It's easy. The Google Drive is always there. As far as crypto stuff goes, I mean, no, I'm not really going to change any of my crypto stuff, because I believe that my crypto setup is pretty secure to begin with, so there's nothing that really needs to change there. But as far as generalized note-taking goes, yeah, it's either paper book, phone, or computer. And it just goes into a Google Doc if I want to share it. Or sometimes it just goes into a Google Doc if I want to keep it for myself. So, what I got?
I have a quick question that I want to ask the audience, or not the audience, the panel. And you guys don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I want to pose this question in such a way so as to not like give you guys the like obviously we're speaking publicly right here, so don't say exactly what you do, but what are some things that the folks at home could do that would help them have better practices regarding note-taking stuff in cryptocurrency? What are some potential note-taking techniques that might be helpful? So like for instance, I had talked about like saving different public addresses in like an Excel spreadsheet, so that way I know like, hey, this wallet is mine. This wallet is this person that I paid this one time. This wallet, you know, belongs to this contract, or this series of letters and numbers is this contract address, you know, things like that. I store public data in Excel spreadsheets and things like that. Zenith, do you have any note-taking tricks or tips for the folks at home who might be like brand spanking new to cryptocurrency?
Nothing crazy, but I'm right along the same lines as you, which is that public addresses are public for a reason. They are the front-facing address of wallets and protocols and whatnot, so those are always publicly available. Yeah, if you start writing them down and start attaching notes to it, you are effectively transforming it a little bit with some sort of information to give it context, but outside of that, that stuff's always publicly available. Now, the other flip side of that is private. Anything private, nope, don't write it down, especially private keys and whatnot, because that's how you get wrecked.
Yeah, I have the perfect method to store your private keys. You just get yourself 12 baby mamas, tattoo one seed phrase on each of them. Don't ever let them meet each other. Keep them on all different parts of the country, and just keep it a secret. They'll never know the meaning behind them.
I like it. You got to make sure that you somehow remember the order in which these 12 babies. So maybe you have one child with each of them, and then the order of the children perhaps could
the age of the children.
one per month, But if you really want to be secure, you go ahead and get yourself 24 of them.
Yep, 24 baby. You can't go wrong with 24 baby mamas. I mean, let's be honest, folks. 24 beautiful new lives sprouted out into the world. That would make the world a better place. I love it. Nate, do you have any before we move to Nate, Farmer J, do you have any note taking? Do you use any apps for online note taking or anything?
No, the only thing I usually do is sometimes I'll save like some messages on like Telegram, but other than like actual physical paper, a lot of times when I have like things I want to remind myself of, I'll just email them to myself. And then I know you asked about like public seed phrases. I never actually write any of that information down whenever I've ever sent any funds to anybody. Like I usually just copy and paste to where they want it, and it's probably there somewhere in the records of the information they send me, but I never take the time to actually form a list of what address belongs to who or for what purpose I send it. I haven't taken that. Like I said, I'm pretty much disorganized when it comes to like my digital footprint. Like I have just everything scattered. Which
there's a
I was going to say which this book hopefully will help with.
That's good, bro. Security through obscurity is the little the little ditty for that. I like it. Excellent. Nate, do you have any oh shoot. There was something anyways, the thought's gone. Nate, do you have any
I do
any
like
apps?
using Telegram basically. Telegram is like the only app I really use right now. I also have a text to speech because oftentimes, when I'm out in the wild killing bugs, oftentimes I can't sit there and just do this constantly. So I'll go into the app, click a button, and just start talking into it, and just let it go, and then I go back to it later, trying to fix up all the little mistakes and stuff. But it's when I was when I read his question, I read it more so like, how are you guys gonna be taking notes when you're like doing research for crypto and all that? And frankly, yes, it is gonna change. There's a lot of information that I go through, and I mean, just the other day, when I had some time, I was going through Arkham and I was following around on a couple of different whale addresses and kind of seeing where the hell they were all throwing money around and what other addresses they had around. And I mean, there's a lot of public addresses there, as well as like specifically how much of a certain type of coin, what type of coin it is, right? And where it was going. And there was a lot of that shit in there, So for me, it was like, all right, well, kind of what did I accomplish? I accomplished the ability to say, hey, I specifically know of this pulse whale who pulled out a pulse, went into ETH, and then he sent it over literally to Base and Binance. It's like, what the hell? But that's all that I know, or all that I remember now. So, with this type of method, what I'd be able to do is I'd be able to start legitimately like putting all the stuff in there, and then kind of creating a little like facts. I don't know how you would call that, but it's like here's how I came to the conclusion that I came to,
and
if
then kind of
via the notes and all that. So yeah, that's something that I'm definitely going to be looking into. I mean, as far as like public addresses go, just to kind of tell you guys what I do with that is I literally just have like a D bank, and I bundle them all together based on who it is, people that I want to watch or anything. I just got it's a simple little list right there, And so the nice thing too is like this has worked a lot because I have a lot of different a lot of different wallets because I got a lot of different farms everywhere, right? And so what I would do is I would just go over to DBank and I'd copy address from that particular farm. I don't need to go sign into the actual wallet itself, right? So that skips a huge amount of steps right there. And then I would simply send the amount of money that I want to send, you know, the amount of coins that I want to send. It was as easy as that.
All right, give what you're talking about, Nate, reminds me of shout out to Miguel dollar cost crypto. I remember in one of his videos, or he's probably said this in many of his videos long ago, but he recommends that whenever people engage in a transaction, that they write down like what they did, what the transaction was worth in like dollars, what the coin value was worth, the time of it, and then also the things that they're feeling as well, the emotions of the transaction. So like when you write down and this is something that Tiago talks about in his book as well, is when you write down the emotions of what it is that you're going through or that you're experiencing or that you're feeling, it gives you an opportunity to look at yourself from a third person perspective and be like, hey, wait a minute, I'm being a silly goose, or hey, wait a minute, I've got FOMO, or I've got FUD, or I'm actually just like, I'm super excited, or like it's a good time and I'm feeling happy. You know, like when we're buying at the bottom, like we might be writing down like, hey, I'm crazy depressed right now. I can't believe the price is down this bad, yada, yada, yada. There's all this FUD and this, that, and the other stuff going on. And then like, if you're selling later, like if you're selling at a loss, like describing the feeling like, oh man, I need to make rent this month, or like, my cat just like, she's due for fingernail clippings and I gotta take money out so I can afford to go to the vet and to get my cat her fingernail clippings or whatever. There's just like
you're leaving evidence behind for the government to find, in my opinion.
Yeah, so you could see it as leaving evidence, or you like if you want to write it down for yourself. Like the point is, like, you could use it as a tool for self-reflection and stuff, or you could consider it also as like a trail of evidence. Like one of the people he talks about in the book is this lady who's a speechwriter who became famous more, or not a speechwriter, excuse me. She was an author. She became famous more or less because like she wrote really good science fiction. And she kept like an incredible set of notes. I think they recovered like 9,000 or something journals after she had passed away that were donated to like a museum or something. And they were going through like her entire life, and they were able to basically like live as her because she was writing down what she was experiencing at the time and like her analysis and all this, that, and the other thing. So it allows people to like put themselves inside your shoes, and it gives you like a little bit of longevity and stuff like that. I wanted to also say that a common note take, like the most common note taking that I see people do is take pictures of things. When people take like, when you like, tell me how many times you guys were at school, or you guys are at like a brief, or you've been to like a place and somebody's like, oh, I want to remember that. Pull out their phone, take a picture of it. Now it's in the camera roll. Congratulations, your camera roll is now your second brain, right? And it's got all the words on it, everything. You can save it, jot it down to your notebook or whatever. But this is the most common thing that people do, is take pictures of stuff.
Yeah,
whether you take pictures of.
I was saying,
yeah, go ahead.
When the instructor used to put notes on the boards, I would see people copying them down, and I would just take my phone, snap a picture, and then I could just print out that thing instead of sitting. So I can actually listen to the lesson instead of concentrating on taking the plans. And then I would just go ahead and print out that note set and just stick it in my binder.
Yeah, man. It's like you can save time, you can remain more attentive, and like there's something to be said, I think, to take the other side of the argument here. There's something to be said about like the physical act of writing it makes you like own the idea a little bit more, makes it more like valuable inside your head, whereas opposed to like taking a picture and storing it. Like there's something about like going through the process and doing the work yourself that'll make it like make a person better able to retain the information and stuff. But I like your little synopsis there, broski. Very good. All right, guys. Before we go too far, I actually need to cover the summary of the book. We're about 45 minutes in. We've done chat shoutouts, we've done intros, we've done some thoughts and stuff, but we haven't actually talked about like what is this damn book about. So I'm going to do the thing where people read the inside cover of the book to give people a quick little synopsis, and then I'll do a quick little summary of all the chapters and things. So, building a second brain, a revolutionary system to enhance your productivity, think more creatively, and remember and utilize the ideas that excite you. For the first time in history, we have instantaneous access to the world's knowledge. There has never been a better time to learn, to create new things, and to improve ourselves. Yet, rather than feeling empowered, we are often left feeling overwhelmed by this ceaseless influx of information. The very knowledge that was supposed to set us free has instead led to the paralyzing fear that we'll never know enough and will never remember enough. Thoughts, ideas, and learning need to be developed to become more than a momentary spark. They have to be packaged up and sent through time as notes to your future self. Your ideas must become part of something outside yourself, a digital support system that allows you to use your precious brain space to unleash your creative potential. Now, in this eye-opening and accessible guide, productivity expert Tiago Forte shows each of us how we can easily create a system to leverage our best thinking. With a second brain, we can harness the full potential of all our thoughts and the information we consume before they fade from our minds. As a trusted and organized digital repository of your most valued ideas and notes, a second brain frees you from self-doubt, supports you when you're forgetful, and empowers you to accomplish everything you set your mind to as your most productive and creative self. Now, what's actually kind of interesting is I just realized, guys, that this isn't a synopsis of the book. This is copywriting. So this is like, hey, this is why you should read this fucking book. Now I'll cover what's actually inside of it. So building a second brain is comprised of a couple different sections. So he's got part 1, which is the foundation, which is understanding what's possible. Part 2 is the method, which is the 4 steps of code, which is one of his little acronyms. And then part 3 is the shift, which is making things happen. So rolling back to part 1, he talks about where it all started, what was his impetus to get into like the building of a second brain. And it's actually quite a good story where he speaks about his experience of having like medical problems, and like each individual doctor that he went to couldn't figure out what the problem was. And what eventually like allowed him to solve it was he literally he went to all the different doctors and he took notes on everything they were saying, and he collected all of his medical record jackets from every single place in every single instance, and he became the subject matter expert of basically himself. Now, he didn't know medicine, and he didn't know doctoring, and he didn't know like how the human body works, but so he took his notes to all these different doctors and things, and eventually they were able to come to the conclusion that it's like, oh, the reason you're going through this, that, and the other experience is like because of this, that, and the other thing that we see in your notes because of all this reference and stuff. So he basically became like, hey, I'm a self-expert, and like he did that by gathering up a shit ton of information, weeding through all the stuff that was bullshit and weeding through all the stuff that was not, collecting it in one spot, and then just like presenting it to a whole bunch of different experts and things. So that was pretty cool, where it all started. I enjoyed that. I'm not usually a big fan of stories and things, but that one was pretty fun. So then the second chapter is what is a second brain, and then the third chapter talks about how a second brain works. We kind of covered that already through the intro of the show, so I think you guys got a pretty good basic idea. So next is part 2, the method, the 4 steps of code. So one of the acronyms that he talks about in the book is code, and it's capture, organize, distill, and express. So that's basically the four steps of note taking. The first one being capture, the second one being organizing, the third one is distilling, and then the fourth one is expressing. So the first part of any like good note taking is like you accumulate the information, you capture the stuff. So his little ditty for that one is keep what resonates. That's his rememberable thing. The second part is organize. So basically whenever you've got your like 1 day or 1 week or 1 year or whatever's X, Y, and Z time frame that you determine to be appropriate, whenever you got that 1 unit of appropriate notes, you then go through it all afterwards. And there's actually two different stages here. I'm gonna reverse a little bit. So when you're capturing the notes, you're going through a process known as oh shoot, I can't remember the name. Dang it. Oh, I just had it a second ago. I wrote it down in the Telegram. Man, if only I had a second brain active right now. Let me pull that bad mamba jamba up. If only my computer wasn't so slow. Divergence. There we go. So divergence and convergence. So when you're thinking, when you're going through the creative process, when you're having all of these moments of like high energy, high inspiration, high creativity, you're going through the divergence. That's where you're split off from the world. You're going through La La Land. You're getting all the crazy cool things, and you're just like collecting, throwing it in this big fucking net and just not worrying about it, right? Because you're in divergence mindset mode. You're in the creative mindset, and you need to stay in the creative mindset in order to keep getting these moments of inspiration. So Step 2, after you're done with the capturing phase and you hop into the organizing phase, step 2 is the organize. That's where you switch from divergence into convergence. So divergence is where everything like splits apart and goes crazy, goes haywire. Convergence is where everything comes together. Think of those like train stations, or think of like a river flowing in reverse. Divergence is where the river splits into a bunch of little tiny streams, and convergence is where all of the mountain streams come down into this big giant river, right? So for convergence, that's where you take all of your little ideas, all your separate things that you've collected up out through the day or the week or the whatever unit of time you determine to be appropriate, and you put them in a filing system that is organized based on actionability. So this part's really important. That's where his second little what do you call it, acronym or keep, what's it called, Zenith, when you got a 4-letter phrase or something?
4-letter phrase? Or are you talking about a word where each letter means something else? Because that's
acronym. The one. Acronym. It is acronym. Okay, thank you, sir. I'm a little bit lost. I guess I've drank too much of this whiskey my mother brought me. But anyways, the acronym for the organization part is PARA, which is projects, areas of improvement, resources, and archives. So basically, you think of it as when you're storing information, the traditional way that we're all taught to store information is basically like you store things based on the category. You know, the example that he gives in the book is like the category is fruit. So you put fruit smoothies, fruit roll-ups, fruit punch, and like raw fruit, and then like processed fruit. You put them all in the same bin. That doesn't make sense, right? In the real world, you wouldn't put all these fruit things in the same place just because they happen to be part of like the Dewey Decimal System or the scientific, family of fruit. You put them in different areas based on how you're going to use them. And I don't know if he made this example in the book, but in one of the YouTube talks that I had listened to, he describes the PARA system as a kitchen, where your projects is the most important thing. That's like what you're doing right now. Like I'm learning how to plant a tree. I'm setting up a podcast for a book club. I am figuring out like how I'm going to do my taxes for this fiscal year. It's a project that you're actively working on, right? The next thing is areas of improvement. This is like more of a general, like this is something that I want to get better at. So like that's where the more broad things come into play. So if you want to learn about exercise, or if you want to get fit, right, then it would be like a health category, and you could put your fitness stuff in there. You could put your doctor's notes. You can put your, how often to take your ashwagandha roots or whatever. You put all this stuff in your area of improvement. And after that one is the resources, and that's like broad sweeping things. This is almost like your Wikipedia or something like that. And then the final category is archives. So that's where you throw everything else. This is the deep freezer. This is the cold zone where all the good stuff goes when you're not going to use it immediately, but you want to be able to grab it if you ever need to find it. This is where you store stuff basically by dates, or by the project after it's completed or whatever. It goes into the archives or things of that nature. And he compares the PARA system to a kitchen, where the projects are the pots and pans. This is like you're cooking on the stove. You're actively doing stuff here. The areas of improvement is the fridge. It's like, hey, I'm going to need things from here, so I need to be able to access it quickly, but it's not like my main focus and point of friction and everything. The the resources is the pantry. It's like that's where I keep the food. It's a little bit more like long term. It's less actionable, but like I know where everything's in there and I can get it ready when I need it. And then the archives is the deep freezer, which is where it's like this is where the stuff goes and it sits there for a long time, and then eventually we go and we pull it out, we put it in the fridge, and then we cook it up or whatever as we need to. But so that's part of the organize bit of the of like the steps in the note taking. So we've covered captured, we've covered organize. The next part is distill. So distill is when you're actively working on the thing that you want to understand more and take the note of. So distill is like when you're really figuring out the essence, the most important part of each of the notes. Because perhaps you saved a podcast. It's like, okay, what's the most important part of the podcast? Okay, this 5-second clip. All right, cool beans. I've cut that out. I'm putting it in there. I'm trimming the rest, and I'm getting rid of it. Right. So capture, organize, distill, and then express. The express is when you finally everything comes together. You've got all your notes. You're taking you're sharing this clip to a friend. You're actively like cooking the recipe. You're presenting your taxes to the accountant. Whatever the actual thing is that you've done, like the purpose of you taking the notes and to begin with. So that's the method, and that's the part 2 of the book. Then the final part is the shift, which is the making things happen. So chapter 8. Oh, and so each one of those is their own little chapter. So chapters 5, 6, 7, or excuse me, 4, 5, 6, 7 are they're each one part of the code system respectively. So the shift is the final part of the book where he talks about the art of creative execution, the essential habits of digital organizers, the path to self-expression, and then he's got a little bonus chapter about like using tags and things inside of notes and stuff, and then like additional resources and guidelines. But that's basically the gist of the book. So that being said, it's time for us to get into questions and things. So do any of you guys have any thoughts on anything that I've covered? Has anything that I've said sparked a moment of interest or a thought that you want to get out while I start looking up the questions to throw towards you guys?
Yeah, the only thing you didn't mention in the book is the part where the author pulls the classic "Go touch grass." Because
he did that?
Yeah, he had a section in there. He's like, look, book learning's cool. Taking notes is cool. But if you do nothing with it, you're still doing nothing. So go do things.
Yes.
Like,
you're fucking A right. That's like the Richard Hart. That's like the...
We keep seeing these all over the place.
Yeah, it's weird, bro. Whether we're reading, How to Meet Friends and Influence People, whether we're reading Sci-Vive, $100 million offers, fucking this thing, that thing, or the other thing, it all boils down to you gotta fucking go do stuff, right? So
that's the essence of improving yourself, and that's ultimately what these books are. It's like, hey, how can I improve yourself? How can I improve something in my life? But
practice is what it is.
Yes, practice. You got it exactly. Practice makes perfect, and if you're not doing it right,
yeah, I was gonna add on to what Nate.
That's all.
Add on to what Nate said, right? Like it's about improving yourself, right? Like whatever is in the book, right? You don't necessarily need to do this method, right? But listening to his method might give you an idea of how you might want to do a method for yourself. Or you can take parts from him and parts from other places and come up with a method that actually works for yourself. But if you don't actually study other people's methods, then you're not going to be able to create anything that actually works for yourself. Because like we think we're the smartest people that are alive in time, and we're not. We need to take all these ideas that people have came up with, consolidate them, and actually check out what works and what doesn't work. And like I said, it's all about self-improvement, and what works for you might not necessarily work for me. But as long as we all get to that end, right? This particular book, it's about storing all this information and be able to recall it when you need it, right? So if you're able to come up with a method that works for you, that's great. That's what it's all about.
Yes. Mrs. McGettit, do you have any thoughts either?
I'm sorry, I was grabbing coffee. What's the question?
Oh, I was just asking, so I basically spent forever talking about the summary of the book and stuff. Did anything in there stick out to you, or was there anything that like struck a nerve or struck a chord?
Yeah, the acronym, what was it called?
It was Code and Para.
Yeah, Code. I like Code a lot. That's the one that I think I'm really going to start trying to implement in my personal life. I don't have too much to say about it other than I really liked it, and I think it's very valuable and highly important, at least for me, and hopefully for others as well.
I like it. I like the code, and actually, that's what my next question sort of revolves around. Is like, do you guys for organization systems, the system that he talks about, the para, projects, areas, resources, archives, that's a filing system. Do you guys have any sort of filing system or any sort of like organization method? I know Farmer Jay, you said you're a little bit messy, but like, do you have are there different do you put dates on notebooks? Do you kind of like stack them up in a certain way? Do you put them like in the back of the closet or the front of the closet? You kind of like throw them about everywhere or something like that? Are there do you guys have any systems of organization for the information that you have? Like Farmer Jay, I see you have a book stack behind you, and Z, I know you've got a book stack behind you, right? Is there are there organizations or are there like methods to madness for how you store information?
No, to me, specifically on books, is usually what's on top is what I read last, right?
Yeah.
So, but as far as like files and things of that nature, like my preferred method is dates. Like I would have a date on like where stuff, how, when this thing was created at the date, and not necessarily in categories, which is why it's such a mess. But like, because I used to try to recollect them on, I used to try to recall when when this information was created, or if I did this thing 2 years ago, I try to look back at a file that's go between those dates. But it's not really an effective method, because then you're sitting there and you're like, I know it was between these months, but now you're going through all these files that are unnecessary. So I think that's one method, but then you have to put subcategories in it, which is what I really haven't done. One thing I was very good at doing was a lot of the picture files I would have on my computer. Like I would actually categorize those pretty good as whether there were events and the date to them. But other than that, I really don't have a system where it's efficient of whenever I need something, trying to recall it. Like trying to find that information, it takes me a while because I have to go through the stack of dates of looking for these things.
That makes sense. I do recall like that is a common thing that people do when you're talking to them and there's some sort of significant event that happened. They speak about a reference date for themselves, like, oh, it was my birthday, or this is like the time that me and X, Y, and Z went out to go see this baseball game or something like that, or it must have been the spring of '95, right? It's I wonder if that's a method that people use to almost like, what's the phrase I want to use here? Like to springboard whatever it is they're about to talk into. Like they're trying to draw back a trip on memory lane, and the thing that they want to do is like have that flashpoint of the spark so they can like start that memory and then get the momentum going or something like that. Nate, I see you're smiling here. Do you have a system of organization, or did you like the para description, or the not description, excuse me, acronym?
Yeah. So the acronym is fantastic. That's something I'm going to be implementing. So it's kind of silly because I was already kind of going down this road because I was absolutely terrible at being able to, number one, capture information. I always thought, just put it in the brain, remember it, and that doesn't work out too well. And I went through my entire 20s like that. But then the more and more I started like trying to have to remember things, the more and more I started writing them down, in which then I've got like books and books of just crap written down everywhere, in my truck, in my workspace, on my desk, in my room, somewhere, all over several places. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm never actually using this. I'm just writing it down to maybe accidentally find it one day and be like, I wonder why I did that. Right.
Yeah.
So then I started trying to write things down in file groups, in new Telegram channels. Right. And that's kind of how I've been doing it so far. And it's helped a lot, but stuff still gets lost in there. And so one of the things that I was, when he was talking about, how to organize things and like how to quickly find stuff, I was thinking about like how it is that I would find something, right? A lot of people love putting like dates down, dates, and now I'm gonna go find this date. Me, I don't remember that shit. I don't even remember. It's like, oh, I don't know, that Christmas, I was thinking about that. I don't remember that shit. What the hell? What Christmas? Yep. What year was that? How old am I don't know. Right. So I for me, I'm more of I'm the type of thinker who's like, I heard somebody say something, an idea sparked in my head, and I started thinking through that idea, and I kind of go down like this trail of like what it all means, what it could mean, where's the evidence that could support my ideas in this, and then I go looking for the evidence, right? And I go down like a whole rabbit trail type of thing. So for me, I was thinking, hey, the best idea for me to be able to organize things and then find them really quickly, like go back to old projects or whatever, is going to be mentioning in the taglines or whatever, like the what would you call it, the name of whatever voice note or doc, text doc, or whatever, right? And fill in the
Yeah,
blank.
like a hashtag
But
or something, right?
yeah, some type of thing like that would be something that has to do, and I would write it in the moment where after I just get done thinking about it, and I'm like, I want to go back to this later, but I need to put on the shelf. Write down the original, like what sparked my idea, so that way when I go back to it, I'm gonna be like, wait a minute, there's a possibility of infinite energy. Why would that be? And then I would start thinking about that, and I'd be like, oh yeah, the ether. That was something I was researching not too long ago, and made me really interested in it, And then I would start that research back up, or I would go into the file, and I would already have a lot of the research right there, and I can be like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this. Okay, I'm caught back up to where I was at before, and I can continue to build on that thought process, going down the rabbit hole where I was before. That would be so for I don't know about other people, but for me, that'd be so hyper efficient, because I can't tell you how many times I have to keep going back to the start because I've lost my information, or I've lost where I was at. And then I gotta go get that information again, re-study it from the beginning again. So I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And I think, ooh, excuse me, got a burp there. But I think that would be an absolutely fantastic way of organizing things. So yeah, like I said, this book has really inspired me. I'm going to start like implementing some stuff and kind of looking at it, how I can change things up.
One of the things that makes me think of is, and this is something, shout out to my brother Sam, by the way. Sam, if you're watching this, you gave me a fantastic idea where you can turn websites into text documents, and then you can throw that into ChatGPT, and then you can say, hey ChatGPT, can you extract this for me and extract X, Y, and Z information based on A, B, and C criteria. Extract that for me and put it into a separate document as either like a bulletized list of important notes, or like this is the summary, or this is the synopsis, or this is like the X, Y, and Z thing. You can literally take a website and copy all the words on it, and you kind of got to do like a little bit of what's the phrase? Oh shoot, I can't think of the word. It's lost to me. You have to do some magical finesse and things in order to get the correct information off of the text document. But once you figure that out, that magic sauce, then you can use ChatGPT as a fantastic summarization tool. There's also video summarization tools. There is live audio summarization tools. So if I found the correct ones or something, I could literally have a second application in the background right now, taking all of the audio of us speaking and creating summaries of what each person is saying at each particular point in time. That would be a cool tool. I don't know where to find it or where it exists, but I do know that the idea or the general concept of it is out there. I know that it's not compatible with StreamYard, but they have one for Zoom, and I was very interested in looking into that. Zenith, do you have any thoughts before I hop into the next question?
Yeah, well, your question was, how do we organize the bookshelf back here? And it's like, well, all the books that are related to crypto stuff are over here, or if they're related to hobby stuff, which I do at my desk, they're over here as well. So any of the thing on stream is relevant to trying to give a good brand image, if you will. And then there's the bottom shelf that can't be seen, which has all of the Warhammer books on it. So
very nice.
We keep the nerd stuff buried deep down, right in the closet where it belongs. And then all the stuff that we want the world to see and think that we keep up top.
That is excellent. I like it. What about for the
I lost my Warhammer figurines. I don't know what I did with them.
Oh, that's sad. I wish I knew more about Warhammer. There's some excellent lore inside the Warhammer world. Mrs. McGettit, why don't you go ahead and you have anything for the oh, excuse me. Do you have any thoughts on the organization systems?
No, not really. Was there like a specific thing that you were asking about?
So the question revolved around the the projects, areas, resources, and archives, and how it's centered around actionability. There's other ways to sort things based off of like date, based off of like preference, based off of last use, things of that nature. Do you have different sorting mechanisms that you use, or are you fond of the para method, perhaps?
Oh yeah, I definitely have a lot of different sorting methods. What was going to say is I was just going to mess with Zenith a little bit here and say my bookshelf looks like a total degenerate mess up there. It's all just fantasy books. They're organized alphabetically. So I mean, the
There we
organization is
go.
great, but like you talking about hiding your nerd stuff, like nah, though that's on full display. You see my bookshelf, you're gonna be like, oh god.
I've
That's
had
good conversation
straight up models
piece.
over here before. I mean, I also have these leftover chips from the last time I was in Vegas, but
As for the organization thing, though, I think your example with the kitchen was actually fantastic. I really liked that. For me, when it comes to organizing, I guess the main thing that I really do try to keep like super organized would be my Pokemon collection. However, it's a bit of I'm the only person who understands it because I organize them by what's my favorite. So anybody else looking through my stuff is going to be like, what even is this? But to me, I mean, it makes sense.
No. What if, I mean, good, heaven forbid you pass away or something bad happens to you where you turn blind or become like mute or unable to communicate or something. Is there any way for your loved ones, whether it's Nate or Soren or the family cat or something, to find all the valuable Pokemon stuffs hidden about the place? Like a treasure map?
I mean, they're all organized into like bins and binders and shelves and stuff. That's what I meant by organize or by the chaos part is my binders are they're organized by my favorite Pokemon or whatever I decided to organize them as. So if you go through the binders, it doesn't make any sense. So if you try to like organize it through how Pokemon organized it, like they have like the Pokédex where everything has a certain number. There's like different rarities on the cards, and mine are all just mixed in by, this is the one I like most type of a thing.
I was gonna say, I was just gonna say the hardest thing about organizing stuff as you get older, you just end up with more crap to organize.
Yeah, basically.
There's so that leads me into my next topic, but go ahead and finish your thought, Mrs. McGettit, if you got something.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say if it ever came to like needing to sell my things, I actually have a very close friend who I've discussed this with a little bit, and basically if something happened to me, Nate could just reach out to him and they could figure that out. So that's kind of the backup plan I got there, because I do have a lot of stuff, so I wanted to have kind of something in place in case of a crazy tragedy.
Gotcha. That's kind of similar to a legal trust.
That like I would understand it, but I'm not so deep into freaking Pokemon, and her friend is that deep into Pokemon, so I'd have to be like, hey, could you figure this out? I think I know what it means, but yeah. The thinking I know comes from knowing her, unfortunately. I don't know all the crap that she has. Dude,
gotcha.
She's literally got an entire like cabinet taking up an entire wall space, and it's just Pokemon shit in there. And it's like all rare stuff or whatever, costs a lot of money. I'm like, what the hell is all this?
Hey,
the funnest part about that shelf that he's describing is none of it is cards. Most of the money is in the cards, and this shelf is all just like merch. And my cards are elsewhere. Yep, basically.
What was that, Z?
I would say it's sealed product, aka the stuff you never open.
Ah.
But Will, the real question here though is, how do you organize your ammo?
Oh, how do I organize my ammo? Based on
size, use?
Use. I organize my ammo based on use. The ammo that I use the most, that I'm trained with the most, is the most accessible. The stuff that I use the least is the least accessible. So I also organize my ammo based on para, with projects, areas, resources, and archives. So like, like if I'm going to be shooting my 7.62 by 38 Nagant revolver, like very, very, very seldom, because it's very unique bullets. Like that ammo is going to be in the back. It's not going to be used a lot. If I'm shooting 5.56, that's right up in the front, ready to roll. 5.56, 9mm, 22. All the stuff that is the high consumption rate, that's all in the front. That's ready to go. That doesn't even sit in the boxes for very long. So that's how I sort my ammo.
Remember to keep the 5.56 and the 300 blackout separate.
I don't have any 300
dark,
blackout.
It's easy to screw that up.
Yes, yes. I've never owned a 300 blackout. Believe it or not, shame on me for not doing so. But I'm a fan of the five. I'm a fan of the standard stuff.
Unless you intend to run it subsonic out of a shorty barrel, there is like close to zero reason to have 300 blackout. And Boogie
That's kind of what I
loves to
figured.
Boogie loves to give me flack for it, and at the end of the day, he is correct.
I like the stuff that works, and I like the stuff that is common and predictable. And there's nothing wrong with niche ammo. Don't get me wrong, but like, if you're going to feed a P90 and you're trying to buy 5.7, then like you're going to have an expensive and a bad time. If you're trying to buy, 300 blackout is pretty common nowadays, but it didn't used to be. And so there's a little bit more of a logistical supply of 300 blackout. The problem that you run into, like you had said, is it's similar in shape and size.
Goes in the same mag.
Yeah, to 5.56. So if you find yourself in a pickle where you need to know what's going in your gun and you don't because X, Y, and Z happens, then like I suppose it'd be very important to have an organization system for your 300 blackout and your 5.56. Don't dump it all in the same barrel. It's probably going to be a bad time.
True. That's why 300 blackout goes into the steel mags. All the 5.56 goes into the P mags.
Ooh, that's clever. I like that. Actually. So that leads us into our next topic, which is the distilling. So we're kind of going through the code one letter at a time. So the D for distilling. Do you guys spend any time distilling the information? Oh, excuse me, and sorting it, or do you toss it all up into the wind? Do you think that that's something you might do in the future, or chalk it up and say, bananas, I'm not into all of that? What are you guys' thoughts on the idea of condensing the notes into the most valuable, important part?
This is one of those things I think, like, especially in the school days, people talk about the idea of like rewriting your notes or like condensing your notes, and people are like, yeah, I'll do that. Like, people rarely do it until it's finals time, but that is that step, which is that you have all the notes from your entire year, and you're coming up to the final, which is the true test of what you need to know and what do you learn and how to apply it. And that's the step of distillation, is where you go from all the stuff from the year down to this 4-hour period that I'm going to get graded on. That's the distillation process. Or theoretically, if you're on like the editing floor, like we are sometimes with the content that we make, you gotta find those clips that like really have the good stuff on it, and kind of sort out all the clips that are like, the audio is kind of scuffed here, all that kind of stuff. This is just a very normal editing process, in my personal opinion, which is that you got to review what it is and why it's important. And like Farmer alluded to earlier, it's the idea of there's kind of two ways to take notes, or three, I guess, if you include taking a picture. Taking a picture is just direct copy. It's just carbon copy of what is there is what is there. Number two is the actual process of just writing something down verbatim, which is I hear a quote and then I write out exactly what the quote is. The version 3 is you actually look at the notes on the board, you listen to the message, and then you jot down yourself the bullet points or whatever you think the message is. The reason that it's different is because it's the distillation, which is this process right here, which is that this no longer requires just functioning ears and a kinetic system, aka your hand and a pen, but it actually requires a little bit of gray matter, because you have to choose what's stuck with your brain, whether it's from the actual logic side or maybe the emotion side, which is, this is the thing that really stuck with me. This is the thing that was most important. This is the thing that made me feel a certain way. That's the kind of stuff where you get to in the distillation. And this is where you really start to produce that value, in my personal opinion.
I like that you brought up content creation, because anyone that creates content, whether you're typing a message on Twitter, whether you're posting a reel on YouTube, whether you're putting up a picture on Facebook or Instagram, or making a TikTok video, or writing a blog on a community forum, or even just like replying to somebody, you are, well, theoretically, that you could go about it one of two ways, where you just blurt out everything, just kind of like information vomit, and then the person that's receiving or consuming or whatever has to sort through the information vomit. Or you can make it into the most salient points possible, delivered with the best mechanisms and the best sales copy, or something like that. That's kind of that's the thing I like that's where your brain went, Zenith, because that's where mine went too when he went to the distillation. Is I was thinking about the process of what I do when I host a show for the Degen Roundtable, specifically book club, where I go through all the notes, I find the things that are the best ones, and I turn those into talking points, or I turn those into questions, or things of that nature. So that's what sprung to mind with me. Nate, you've done some content creation as well for the Ascending Man channel that you've done, and also just for the Degen Roundtable as well. Do you have a process for trimming the fat, so to say, from either your notes or the stuff that you're making or the things that you're going through?
Yeah, so it's been a learning curve for sure, doing content creation, right? So what I've started doing is, originally I was just taking any information that I thought was useful and I would just kind of like write it down. I'm getting some kind of echo in here.
I don't hear any echo. That might be on your end. I'm not.
It might be on my end.
Sounds like news or something, or someone's talking. In any case, do you remember what you were saying, Nate?
Yeah. So, yeah, for me though, what I've come to learn is that it's the way that works really good for me is, or at least that I've noticed so far, is that what I do first off is I'm gonna check.
That's all good. While you are checking, save that thought, Nate. Farmer Jay, do you have a thought process, or do you think of distilling your thoughts? Like whenever you're sending someone a text, maybe it's your 24 seed phrase baby mamas or something. If you're sending one of them a text, or if you're writing a document or something of that nature, do you think about the distillation process of like, this is the most important thing that I want to say? Something along those lines?
Generally, yeah. I have like a little notebook. Usually when we do book club that I usually write in. Lately I've been sitting like at my desk, and I'm usually listening to the audiobooks while I'm going through just checking stuff online, right? Going through my farms or whatnot, and just looking at my portfolio. So I usually like taking notes. And then I usually some of the best notes I find though are the ones you post on the Telegram book. Yeah. So the only one I was going to put in there, but I forgot, was I was going to say that that the author lost me. When he started talking about Taylor Swift. I was tired of that goddamn. And this was yesterday after this was like, I was listening to this yesterday, especially after the football game. Like, I'm tired of this damn. I'm tired of watching her, like, I don't care. I just want to watch football. So,
yeah.
Nope. She's on screen. But yeah, generally, like, I like to just write stuff down. But that's an issue I have, right? I write these important issues down that I'm going to address soon, right? But I don't go ahead and place them in a place later for archives or whatever. They just sit there in notebooks, and a lot of the times, like, I'll just write on whatever notebook's closer to me. So a lot of the times I'll flip through these things, and they're just random things that are just not related to each other. I try to keep them in particular notebooks, whether it's a subject, but most of the time, like, if I have a thought in my head, I'll just go ahead and write it down. Well, what I think I need to start doing more, when I start doing that, is actually write down, when I write these ideas down, go a little further into that, like what is specifically I'm talking about, or what is this in reference to?
That makes sense. So kind of like a second note on top of the note, something like that.
Yeah, just like what is this in reference to? Like, oh, this is in reference to book club, this particular book, like, and then write that down.
Dude, what if you had like a set of stamps, like those old, like, ka-chunk rejected or ka-chunk confirmed or something, like you got like some blue marker, whatever, you just have a whole bunch of stamps with all these different like little topics or whatever. You can just stamp all your notes and come back to them later. It's almost like a little old-fashioned hashtag.
Actually, like, I used to actually do that. Like, when I would take notes, like, I would highlight certain things, and then I would have I'm pretty sure Zenith is pretty sure he's familiar with, like, on certain prints, right? There's like a ledger, right? So I would have like special little characters on there that refer to what I was talking about. Like if this is for this subject, I would either put a star or a plus or a 1, and then I would reference a legend, say, okay, this is what this refers to. But I've gone away from that. It's mainly because you just have too much stuff to keep in track. And I think that's where we're using the second brain method, right? We're actually having a digital some digital help where you can actually organize these things a lot more efficiently.
Yeah, because it's basically the digital thing is just a helper that does all this stuff for you faster.
Yeah, it just allows you to be more efficient on things you already do. And that's why I said this book, it just shows you a method, right? But if you can find a better way or a method that works for you that you understand, I think that's perfectly fine. Like, you don't necessarily need to go follow his method word for word, right? If you can take ideas from him and implement it into the method you already have, and it actually works for you better than the method he has for himself, then I think you should. That's something you should do.
I like it. Z, go ahead. You had something there, bro.
Yeah, Farmer, you mentioned an idea that kind of just clicked with me. It's something I didn't even like. It's something I subconsciously do with all my note taking, which is the idea of a legend. Not a ledger like the hard wallet, but a legend, which is that there are different symbols and different items that you use in your personal notes to denote different things. It doesn't have to be spelled out anywhere in particular, but it just has to be up here. So like me, for example, whenever I start my notes, at the top of it, I go date in the top left corner. And then anytime I'm just categorizing all the rest of the stuff that's going to follow, it's just a single line of what's going on out there. And then any individual point or item gets a bullet point. And any task that I have for myself, I draw a box instead of the dot, which means that I have a checkoff box so that when I come back and I look at my notes and I go through, I literally see all the things I have to do. So like the box means do this. The dot means information point. And there's even like subsections on that. Like I do an indent and then a dash and then maybe like another indent and a dash arrow for details on individual points. But like you might not even realize you're doing this, but I'm sure everybody has a legend in their head that gets enacted in some way out there. So it's just a matter of... Go for it.
Finish your thought.
I was going to say, it's just a matter of just understanding that like it kind of goes to a lot of the other books we talked about, which is like the ideas in the books are not like super revolutionary, but it's just a person who found a good, succinct way of writing it down on paper and being able to put a name or a label on it and communicate and convey it, which is like all of us here have been taking notes probably all of our lives. We live in the 21st century. We all went through some sort of standardized school in a first world country. So yeah, notes were part of it. This book in particular is just one that really talks about like, here are the distinct points that people have found the most useful and that we can actually put a process to it and spell it out in plain English.
It made me think of like some people's note taking stuff is different than others. And one of the things that this was in a totally separate Tiago podcast where I can't remember who he was speaking with, but he was talking to somebody and they were describing how different people have different ways of making the notes look pretty. Like is syntax the right word or something like that? Like the way that you bulletize information or the way that you present it, you know?
Syntax, stylizing, formatting, whatever you want to call it. Like some I remember back in like middle school and high school, I would always get like 3 or 4 different color pens. And then I'd have my black that I wrote the notes with, and then any keywords would get written with like a colored pen or something, so they're easily identifiable. And then there are also those people who have those bullet journals where instead of lines, it's literally just like a grid of bullets, and then people are able to like make crazy designs, do like artwork, have actual like legible schedules, calendars, actual just like normal lines for writing. There's the formatting, the syntax, a lot of it's very personal preference, but at the same time, it's different styles for different purposes as well. There's so many different ways to take notes. What they're describing in the book is less of a very specific way to actually take notes. It's more of just describing the process overall, which is, again, it's the code thing, which is it's just capturing everything, organizing, distilling, and then exporting, or I forget what the E is, but I call it
it's either exporting or expressing or expelling, something like that. Dude, it's
Express.
I was going to say, right now we're at the distillation process. This is the one where, in my personal opinion, this is where you transition from listening and watching to actually creating on your own end. It's not
Yeah.
the actual like finished product, but this is step one, which is that you got to go capture all the information you can. You got to put it into some way that's sensible. And now you're actually starting to put your own spin on it, because like I alluded to earlier in my summary for this section, which is that this is the part where you are actually using your own mental faculties to identify what you care about or what you think is important. And based on that, that's going to honestly be a bit of an expression on you. And you're going to get into what the book calls those IP, or there's like, it's like interpersonal points or something. It's the small building blocks that you can make for yourself that you can just literally just drag and drop into other projects that you want to use in the future, which is that you distill information ideas and you make it your own. Now, because you've added your own twist and your own spin on this thing from like a legal standpoint, you're not just like straight like infringing on
Yeah, you're not
copyright
copying
or plagiarizing or anything. This actually has a little bit of you, and it has a little bit of synthesizing of the ideas that have been presented to what you think is correct or important and how it interfaces with itself. And then from that, you can really get to that fourth standpoint, which is actually creating stuff.
Dude, just like everything in between the beginning of the rough draft and the person receiving the final product actually looks at it. That's all the distillation. That's all the distillation part. We got a chat from, Mrs. Producer, can you bring that back up? All Zenith's ideas are now my ideas. That is correct. Shout out to Pulse Jitsu with Fast Abdul. He's taking all your secrets, as he takes everyone's secrets. The Zenith, what you're talking about though is like I just came to the conclusion while you were talking. You made me think of like, holy smokes, bro! It's all just a rough draft. The distilling is just the rough draft. It's not the final product. It's all like what you do when you send it to the editor, when you receive it back, when you make your corrections, yada yada yada. A different way to look at the distillation process is it's just the rough draft. Holy smoke! I can't believe I didn't think of that before now, bro. You just totally blew my mind with that. I love it.
It's either that, or if you want to take it from a different perspective, it's the idea of modularity, which is that if you design something to be modular, it's that each of the ideas inside themselves are pick and pull, and how you align them together determines what the final product is. So if you package your ideas in a way that's congruent with your own mind, theoretically, you should be able to move them around and reorder them and structure them in a certain way that it creates something new or creates something sensible or kind of draws different ideas based off of it. So there you go.
Yeah, I would kind of add to that quickly. Like, each of us has a different way our mind works, right? And the way we're able to organize ideas and look at things, right? So if you start like you brought up when you were in school, right, that all these people had different note-taking methods, right? And sometimes you borrow from these ideas and you're able to generate something that actually works for you. But as you grow, you start seeing these new ideas and you can actually incorporate those into your own methods to improve them. So there isn't just one way of doing this. Like, there's plenty of ways that anybody can look into how you're going to organize your thoughts and ideas and information, right? But you should do something that works specifically for you. If you're the one that's gonna if you're gonna recall these things into your mind, right, and trying to look for them, you should really do something that actually works for you as opposed to something that works for somebody else.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, that's a big thing actually, because like what works for me is a little bit different. And I remember, in learning about like content creation and what I do as far as the notes go, like I was kind of asking around, like, what do you do? What do you do? And I'll tell you what, Tracker is insane because he writes out like basically a full script that he could just straight up read off of. I'm like, dude, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to do that. What I've noticed like for myself is literally just, I tend to go off of like the whole going down the rabbit hole type of thing. I just need to spark that thought in my head, and then I'm able to just take off and go. So usually for me, it's like, hey, just get a headline of what the idea is, and then kind of go from there. Sometimes, because I'll have a couple of questions when looking at the headline, I'll actually put like right underneath it, like, here's the idea that I'm looking for. I also do that with like if I come up with some or if I'm finding some information that I really want to remember and take as notes, right? What I'll do is I'll take basically the exact quote of what I think is the important piece that is like, hey, that's the information right there, the good information, and then I'll put my thoughts underneath it. Like, this is what I think about it. And that, or I'll just do the headline, like, to try and spark that, to re-spark that, my thoughts on it. That's really all that I do, and I've noticed that has worked pretty decently for myself. But I don't know. I think it's a little bit different, to tell you the truth. Maybe my brain is just weird.
Did you get to the part in the book, Nate, about the Hemingway bridges? Did you hear for the folks at home who might not have heard of what a Hemingway bridge is? Oh shoot, I can't remember what Hemingway's first name is, but anyways, there's an author dude named Hemingway, Charles Hemingway, maybe, I don't know, Ernest Hemingway. In any case, there
are two Hemingways. One of them is a high jumper, the other is an author.
Oh, okay. What's his first name?
Let's find it out. You keep talking, I'll look it up.
Oh man. Anyways, there was a Hemingway guy who was an author, and a very, very famous author. Apparently not famous enough for me to remember,
Ernest?
even after Ernest. Oh, Ernest Hemingway. Yes, Ernest Hemingway. Thank you, Mrs. McGettit. So the Hemingway method is when Hemingway would write notes for his book, he would be writing and writing and writing, and then when he got to a stopping point, he would only stop when he already knew what the goal of the next writing session would be, and he'd write himself a little trigger, a little bridge, as it were, to bridge himself from what's about to be the past to his future self, where he would then be like, oh, what was I writing about last? Oh, that. Oh, this is my new goal for this writing session. Okay, taking that and continuing and like reaching this next goal for today. So like, say he hits his, I finished chapter 2. Time to start writing chapter 3, where the bad guy, it turns out he was a dragonfly the whole time, or whatever the heck. They've got the goal, and now he's got to figure out how they get to the goal and everything. So a Hemingway bridge is where you're working on something, you're going to stop working on it, and so you leave yourself a little snack, a little treat, something to get you started the next time, so you can be like, this is where I need to go. The Hemingway bridge, my idea is stopping. So I'm currently writing my notes right now, or I'm distilling or going through the creative process or whatever. But I know that the next time that I'm going to be working on this, I'm probably going to need something to start off. And so while the creative juices are fresh, I'm going to at least annotate my next little jumping point, my little launch point. So that way I don't have to look for inspiration or look for a goal or look for purpose whenever the next time for me to sit down in front of the computer or the typewriter or the quill and paper or the clay tablet from our friends in Babylon or whatever. So that's what I was thinking of when you were describing that, Nate, is the Hemingway bridges that he had. I can't remember at what part in the book they had mentioned that, but that was something that triggered a thought. Do you guys have
2/3 of the way through?
2/3? Okay.
Yeah, I got something for you on this. I think the Hemingway bridge in particular is one of the very good ideas in this book. And I think it is because it solves two issues, in my opinion. The first is that it allows you to really chew on material in your spare time, which is that if you are doing something creative, or in this instance, writing a book, and you leave yourself that foreknowledge of what you want to happen in the future, now what you do is you allow yourself to kind of like mull over these ideas and these possibilities in your spare time, so that you're kind of like half writing while you're not writing, which is that you can like finish your writing session knowing that these are the next plot points I want to hit, and now you know that these plot points exist in your mind. So now between this writing session and your next one, you can kind of imagine, you can kind of daydream, you can feel it out about like all the different possibilities. This is that divergence idea, which is that because we know where we want to go roughly, we can really flesh it out. And when we go sit down to write next time, we know what we're doing. And that leads me into issue number 2 that this solves, which is writer's block. Because anybody who's ever done some sort of creative work has probably experienced that mental block before. Because the mental block, if it's where do you start? It's trying to find that hook or that jumping off point. But if you leave yourself that room every time, you're going to give yourself the ability to kind of roll into ideas and get that flow going, or that momentum, which is that if you know what you want to start with, you're just going to go, and you'll probably get in the groove. You'll probably feel it out, and you'll just keep going. And then if you do the same thing where you stop yourself when you have the ideas for the next stuff, you're again probably going to prevent writer's block, which is going to help you build momentum.
And then to kind of build on top of that too, like, I'm not a stats guy, right? So for me, trying to remember the exact numbers of shit is like good luck. I just don't retain that, you know. But
What?
so
You don't remember that unemployment was 3.6% at the beginning of the year?
hell no.
Why do
Are
I
you
know these
kidding me?
things? I'm cursed with this knowledge.
No, so for like what I do is I underneath like specifically what the idea was, I put down the stats of like, hey, there's this and then there's this and then there's this, because those are, I know that those are going to be questions and the technical evidence, right, to what my whole idea or my thought thesis, I guess you could say, was. But again, this is where I end up getting screwed basically my entire life, because as a before content creation, before I learned how to do this, which was very recent, by the way, I was like, wait, what were the numbers again? Then I would have to go look it all up. I'd have to research it all over again. And it's like going back to square one. So yeah, no, setting yourself up in the future to be able to just like, hey, I'm going to take a pause on life right now. And then I'm going to move over to something else creative, you know, which then switches it up for you. And then, but you're able to go back to that original thing that you were doing and be like, okay, I'm fresh again. So on this specific creative endeavor, let's go ahead and start this up again, because I know exactly where I left off.
Very quickly, fellas, I'm gonna go
Yes.
ahead and have to sign off already.
You gotta
I'm
sign
gonna
off.
sign
All
off
right.
a little early. Just
For-
my final thoughts quickly on the book are just it's a very good it's a good book. Just and the fact, if you're trying to like organize your thoughts and ideas that you have, but I personally don't think that you should do whatever the book says like verbatim, right? You should take these ideas and other ideas and, like I've stated before, come up with your own method that works for you individually. And where can you find me? You can find me at the Degen Roundtable chat. You know, right down below my head. Right there's a QR code. And other than that, I will see you fellas next Friday. You guys have a good one.
Farmer Jay, it's been a pleasure. This is actually a good time for me to go ahead and throw that link in the chat for the folks at home. Thank you for joining us for Farmer, and we will see you next time. Make sure that you degen responsibly as well,
That's
good
right,
sir.
fellas. I'll see you next week.
And I'll see you.
All righty. Excelente. I will throw that link in the chat for the folks at home. If you guys want to join our Telegram, you can either scan that. Man, I got to figure out which way. Okay, I need to point that way. There's a QR code down there. You guys can scan at any point in time while catching the replay or watching live or doing this, that, or the other. Or you can click on the link that I have dropped into the chat. It is t.me/DRT join now. I had a brain blank there for a second. Mrs. Producer, could you pull that chat up, please, if you have not already done so? Or did I drop it in the right spot? Okay, just kidding. Well, at some point, we will bring that up, and this, that, and the other, yada yada yada. This is actually a good spot for us to start beginning to wrap the show. There was one more question that I wanted to ask you guys, and it's in the beginning of the book, or in the beginning of the podcast, we had said, or I had said, and also Tiago had said in the book, that he thinks that brains are not meant for storing ideas. They're not meant for storing things. They're meant for having ideas. I wanted to get your guys' take on that specific statement. And do you think that that applies more or less nowadays in the world that we live in? Did it apply more in the past? Yada yada yada. Do you guys have any thoughts on that particular statement? Brains aren't meant for having ideas. They're meant, or they are made for having ideas, not storing them. What are you guys' thoughts? And you can agree totally, partially, whatever the heck.
I completely agree, and I think it's even more so the case now, especially in the world of AI, which is that this is something we talked about when we did the sci-fi stuff, which is that Richard Hart really proposes the idea of stop memorizing information, instead like be vaguely familiar with it, and then be able to synthesize or go look up and then be able to combine the ideas and find something novel. I know I'm probably the least pro AI person on the panel, and the reason that I think that is because AI is very good if you want to approach the mean. But if you want to continually push forward and push things into new bounds, AI is not going to be able to do that because of the inherent limitations on it. What I mean by that is that it only is a predictive text mechanism at this current time for all the stuff that you've fed into it. Any sort of new or novel idea, it's not going to be able to create. It's one of those things where it's like, it can only go where the roads have been paved, but it itself cannot pave roads. So if you want it to like write code or something, sure, it can write you code, but it's going to write you very average, middling code. It's going to take the summation of all of the code it's ever seen and ever been able to read and write, and it's going to give you what it thinks is the most probable outcome, aka the mean or the middle or the average in that regards. But if you want code that's like hyper efficient, pushing boundaries, doing some sort of new thing, it's not going to be able to give you that. That's where the human brain comes in, which is that the human brain is the thing that's able to parse the ideas and able to see through it. Computers and AI are really good at calculations and remembering and predicting, but they're not good at creating per se. That's where I'm going to come down on this one.
Excellent. I'm inclined to agree with you, but with less words. You basically summed up all my points for me, bro. Excellent, excellent. Nate and Mrs. McGettit, what are you guys' thoughts on Tiago's assertion that brains are meant for having ideas, not for storing?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. And I think it's more relevant today than ever before. The entire idea, I like the title of the book is A Second Brain. The reason why is because there's so much raw data. What is it, like 173 gigs every single day is just flying at our face, going into our brain. That's a lot, man, especially for this here not being so electrical and more so just living matter, right? So I think it's absolutely vital that you allow yourself the ability to not have to think about trying to remember something, and more so think about, hey, here's something here. Okay, what is this now? How should we think about? How can we think about it? How can we prove on things? There's a picture over there. What does that picture mean? I think the human race is coming down to this point now with AIs where the robots are coming, right? Where we're going to start hitting a point where the productive, like physical means of humans are basically going to go away, because robots can always do it better and do it way faster and just overall infinitely better than humans ever could. Okay, so what are humans going to start doing? Well, here's something that humans can do that requires something else other than IQ, right? Robots in general, especially AIs, for the most part, even when it's AGI, is they're going to think very literally and very logically, right? That's just how computers tend to work. They're not really going to be sitting there thinking about how they're feeling about the universe, right? So yes, that may be all woo-woo and all that, but this is something that humans have, right? It's the ability to imagine. It's the ability to be able to create. And I think that's going to be a human strength for basically ever. Now, when do we get to maximum creativity? Well, it's going to be when we're no longer worrying about the needs to survive, and then also the needs to physically produce something. The only production of something we're going to be doing is going to be in our own heads, aka imagination. And for us to be able to not have to sit there and remember an exact number of something that is going to be able to move a rock, from one place to another, when we don't need to think about that anymore, we could just write that down someplace and then bring it up later. And then we can sit there and try and think about it, right? But the entire idea, the majority of the thinking processing power of our brain should go to the imaginative creativity of it. And so I believe that's kind of where us humans are going anyways. And so I kind of see this as like a method of simply evolving. Because if you do think about the way that our brain currently is, we're literally just still monkeys on the savannah. That's that's what we are. So how do you evolve past that? What's the enlightened human, right? Because our technology has gone from sticks and stones, right, breaking bones, but now we're over here with freaking creating our own universe on the internet. I'm able to talk to you guys and be friends with you guys literally without even needing to meet you, because we're right here right now. That goes to all of you in the chat as well. Thank you for being here, by the way. Like, subscribe. So I truly think that humans in general, it's like we're our instincts, our thought processes, just our brains, just that part, that ancient part of us still needs to evolve more. And I think this is a part of the evolving that's going on, is being able to draw this technology out take this technology and then draw out the new aspect of what possibly would be something else. It would be human, yes, but it would not be a normal human. It would be something else.
Bro, you went down a hell of a rabbit hole there. So the end all be all is yes, you agree. The TLDR.
Yes.
I like it. Okay. But that's good. That's good background information nonetheless. So, and it is going to be relevant that there's some crazy things happening. I was having a discussion with a gentleman not too long ago, and he was saying that the difference between human beings and other animals is that we have an exponential level to take information and pass it beyond our own lifetimes. We have generational information transfer. It's not just like, genetic coding, like the spider knows how to weave the web because it's built into its DNA. The fox knows to go hunt the squirrel because it's, that's the way that it works. We have the ability to teach ourselves and to compound knowledge accumulation. And now we've got to the point in this information age where there's just so much knowledge everywhere that we now need to build second brains just to deal with all this damn knowledge. So it's super interesting. Mrs. Producer, do you have any thoughts on the quote that Tiago made about brains are for having ideas, not for storing them?
Well, not to be as long as Nate here, but I think it's both. I think stating it the way that he does is a little bit callous. It's a little kind of dismissive of how much our brains can actually do for us. Because for example, one thing that popped into mind for me is things like muscle memory. That's definitely stored. It's not just like you have to actively, continually try to pull it up anytime you need to do it. Like you don't go to drive a car and sit there and physically think about every little tiny aspect that you know about cars. All that knowledge is stored somewhere in your head. You know how to drive the car and you go wherever you're going. So I think it's a little bit too simple, the way he puts it. But it's definitely got some very valid points behind it because we have a max capacity of how much we can store. So when those ideas come flying in, they can go flying right back out just as quickly. And we maybe retain like probably 0.01% of what we get each day.
Oh man,
yeah. And it's kind of the same idea of like we probably have multiple dreams per night, upwards of like 10 of them. You're lucky if you wake up and you remember one. So he's definitely got a valid point, but I feel like it's a little bit too of a simplified thing to just say. But yeah, I guess that's kind of where I land, somewhere in the middle.
Excellent. I think that the consensus is here that we think that basically we need to stop using our gray squishies for file storage and we need to start using our gray squishies for thinking about new things. It's time for us, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, time to find out what your guys' thoughts are on Tiago Forte and whatever's all going on. So, Mrs. Producer, let's bring up some of these chats for our fantastic chat shout-outs. I'm using my folder as my mouse pad as well, so I got to go through a little process here. So our first chat is, actually, that was the first chat of the night. Shout out to our good friend Ken Turian54X. Next up, we've got Moonpilled Rational Optics saying, "What's up, Degens? What's up to you too, sir? Good to see you, Moonpill." I did see your other chat there earlier as I was scrolling through about bringing hard hat stickers for myself and Farmer Jay. So that'd be kick-ass, bro. Love to hear it. So shout out to Moonpilled Rational Optics. Next up, we've got my very own brother, Samuel Stevenson, saying, "Like the smash button." I couldn't agree more. Like that smash button, ladies and germs. And go read this book because, well,
Sam was talking shit earlier. He was making fun of me, saying I was the kid in class who actually paid attention like a loser.
Oh, well, I think that you interjected that second part, but he did say that you paid attention in school. So I guess at least somebody extracted the value that those teachers were talking. So that's probably pretty good, though. I would say it's good to pay attention in school. There's like hang on, Nate. There's a point where the like button is pressing charges. It can't press charges if you smash it. If you smash that like button, it'll be too broken to press charges. So if you smash it properly,
battery on the like button.
Yep.
Maybe the like button.
Smash it in whatever interpretation you wish to interpret it. So if you do it right, it won't be able to press charges. So that's all I gotta say. Or it won't want to press charges. Who knows?
If you
Maybe
do
it's
it
got
right,
maybe it's got
then you
one of
don't-
those fetishes or something. In any case, back to the point about paying
Case
attention in
dismissed.
school is important, guys. Speaking of smashing like buttons, make sure that you pay attention in school. And right now, school's in sessions. Your teachers, the DGen Roundtable, are here to walk you down this yellow brick road of success, fueled by my mother's liquor and Tiago Forte's excellent books that he's written. Speaking of excellent books and speaking of things written, let's get back to chat shoutouts. So next up, we got Tam coming in saying, "What's up, fam? What's up, Tam? Good to hear from you. Outstanding to see you in the chats." Next up, we got Hex Glenn. Does madness imply no method? There is a method to the madness, and if there is madness, then there's a method. The madness implies that there both is and is not a method. It's simply a matter of perspective. And I was just playing word salad there. I have no idea what I just said, Hex Glenn. I hope I've answered your question because I'm left more confused now, having said all that stuff.
No method,
Next-
only madness.
We're all mad down here. Pulse Jitsu with Fast Abdul is our next chat saying, "I have several brains in jars. I talk to them sometimes." That reminds me of a quote that I heard.
Speaking of
Thank you, Mr.
madness.
Fast Abdul. What's up? Oh yeah, speaking
I
of
said,
madness,
speaking of madness, okay,
Yep.
Abdul, that's good to know, buddy.
no,
The
he's
singular-
absolutely right. It reminds. I think it was George Carlin who said that I have the heart of a small child and I keep it in my front desk drawer. So there we
Oh.
go. Shout out to George Carlin. Or whoever said that. If George Carlin didn't say it, then it kind of sounds to me like something that he would say. But in any case, shout out to whoever made that excellent joke. It wasn't me, but they did a good job, and I remembered it. Our next
Well,
chat. Oh, what do you guys
I
think?
was gonna say the other joke is that if you donate blood, if you donate organs, you're a human, but if you donate more than one, you're a criminal.
Get
Hats off to that.
Oh,
the light bulb just
that
came
took
off the
me. Wow, that took me a minute to get that. Shout out to me figuring that out after what seems like an absurdly long time.
No method,
Right
only
over my head.
madness.
We're all mad, especially me. Speaking of mad, we've got a guy who's not mad. He's mad, wicked, awesome. We got Tin Top. What's up, Hexicans? What's up to you too, good sir? Glad to see you hanging out. Good to see you in the chats. Always good to have Tin Top around. Next up, we've got Paul Sachs. He's wanting to know, Nate, what is your SS number? Now, I'm going to presume that he's talking about your Social Security and not about your German government issued ID from the 1940s, some period point in time. I'm going to guess that that's not the thing that he's speaking of. But
I actually forgot my social security number. We were like, what was it again? I'm like, I don't know, I forgot. But I'll tell you the answer that I gave him was 005 55 5369.
There we go. We got the Quattro Cinco and the 369 in there. I fucking love it. Most outstanding. And then our final chat shout out for the night is Mr. Arceus. Have our brains not evolved to catch up to the modern world, or have we not been smart enough to optimize the modern world for our hang on, I gotta reread that. Have our brains not evolved enough to have our brains not evolved to catch up to the modern world, or have we not been smart enough to optimize the modern world for our brains? Ooh, touche. One of those is malleable, the other one is not. That's an excellent point. Shout out to Arceus. What's that?
I think part of getting smarter is a part of the evolution. So they kind of go up together. They're
Oh, so the way I see it is like you can change yourself, you can change the world. I think that that's the essence of what Arceus was trying to say there. I could be wrong, but that's can you change yourself or can you change the world? Which one's a better leverage, a higher leverage?
If you change yourself, you then have the power to change the world.
Well, I'm thinking from like a scale perspective, like scale of efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Genghis Khan changed the world quite a lot, but it took a bit of effort. I bet you if he'd have done like 4,000 push-ups, he would have changed himself like from a percentage point standpoint. Like if Genghis Khan comes from no push-ups to 1,000 push-ups, he changes like a large percentage. But if he spends 20 years pillaging all of Europe and Asia, then like he changes the world by like a fraction of a percent.
Well, see, his efficiency of push-ups though was the best because he was swinging around swords and picking
there you
people
go
up and throwing them off ledges.
Well, that sounded
Excellent.
like you were making the argument that Genghis Khan needs to hit the gym or hit the weight
Yeah.
room, and I'm like, are
Yeah.
you sure about that? Of all people, that man, that's the one you're picking.
I'll die on this hill, Zenith. Genghis Khan needed to go to the gym. I don't know why he wasn't.
Did not have a 225 bench max. Clearly
Exactly.
not based.
Yep. Mid.
What a
Nothing.
fucking pussy.
Yep. Go back
What's
to
your bench,
pushing
bro?
plates, bro. And do that stuff or whatever gym goers say. I personally don't go to the gym, so I have no idea. But Genghis Khan, maybe Genghis Khan would be my gym partner. You know, there we go. We could go press plates and do squats and things or whatever it is that gym goers do. But anyways, that concludes
Conquer the squat rack.
Conquer the cities. Yeah, he'll teach me how to shoot archery from a horse, and I'll teach him how to I don't know, do dumbbell flies or whatever
Get
a
them
workout word
deadlifts.
is.
Power clean.
Yeah. There we go. I'll teach him how to hang onto a tower. That's the real workout. That's the workout that's important.
There you go.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for us to wrap this show up. So we're going to go ahead and shout ourselves out, say who we are, what we got going on in the near future. Reminder, my name is Will Stevenson. You guys can find me in all of my socials at will.pls.fyi, and I will go ahead and drop that link down in the chat. As far as stuff that I got going on in the near future, I'm actually not going to be Zenith. This is a good way for me to toss off to you, but I'm not going to be present for next week's book club because I have a wedding I need to attend over in Connecticut. So I'll be headed up and off that way. I will be on this Sunday's show and next Sunday's show, but I'm going to be missing the and I'll be on Whiskey Wednesday, of course, but I will be missing the Friday for next week. So whether book club happens or not, I will not be present. I believe that, by the way, that Zenith is shaking his head that we're probably not going to be doing a book club next week. So, Zenith, why don't you go ahead and tell the folks at home where they can find you and what you've got going on in the near future.
Will do. But first, I'm going to cap off the show with something fun for the folks at home. Mrs. Producer, if you could hit the screen share. So I did have this to summarize our final points on the book, and it is a good tweet that I found. It says, "Oh, your brain is acting illogically. It's meat with electricity inside of it. What the fuck did you expect?"
That's a good one. I like that.
Can you send that to me in Telegram, bro? I want to keep that. I want that in my repertoire.
The Spicy Memes channel.
Guys, if you go into our Telegram group, we do have spicy memes in there, and I'll tell you what, things like that are always in there. So it's not even. This isn't even just like straight up like, oh yeah, no, we're learning about stuff, we're improving ourselves, we're becoming better human beings, we're becoming rich and all that, but we're also having a good laugh and a great time as well. So yeah, guys, freaking get in our Telegram, man.
Yeah, get in there. But other than that, yeah, folks, thanks for showing up. As we mentioned earlier, there's not going to be a book club next week. Will has a wedding, and then I'm doing this thing called Vacation, which Alex Ramosi says is for losers. So, sorry, I guess I'm not going to be worth $100 million at the ripe age of 33, I think, when he wrote that book. So, who knows? Anyways, enjoy your week. Enjoy your Friday off next Friday. Should be a good one. A beautiful September day. Catch some college football, catch something with the family, who knows? Either way, though, you guys can catch me on Instagram and Twitter at ZenithDI. And then other than that, you can catch me in our very own Telegram, which is right here. Scan the QR code to get in there down below. Other than that, I'll probably see you on Sunday. We have a pretty good week this week. It's a little bit of macro. It's not the full macro that I love and Nate clearly hates, but we have the unemployment numbers that came out today. We have a lot of market news that came out today, and we have rumors that the Ethereum Foundation has been selling off. So we'll cover all of that and more on Sunday. But other than that, good to see you as always. Thanks for showing up. Nate, what you got, brother?
Well, I'm just trying to get a day off. Oh, man, it's tough. Dude, it's a lot of work. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to, hilariously enough, trying to get all of this actually set up for like a background for streaming and all that. That's kind of my big goals right now, is just setting all that stuff up. Yeah, actually I did get a green screen, so I was thinking about just kind of putting that up for a while. I got some really cool stuff. We got these little freaking
dude, this is
lights.
A project. You're describing a project.
I got these hex lights, and like you can connect them together and stuff, and they have like different colors and crap, and then like you can plug them into your music.
Ooh, man.
And it'll like bounce to the music and shit. So it's really awesome.
Dude, that's awesome, bro.
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's one thing. I'm gonna be getting a new desk here. We're gonna clear off all this stuff. Just trying to get an actual like background going. I thought it'd be fantastic. But yeah, I was thinking probably just start off with the green screen. Excuse me, with the green screen, I'd be able to probably put up like some guns in there and get our channel banned and shit. So,
Brother, buy once, cry once. Get a big old green screen so you don't have to buy a second like me.
oh Jesus. Okay, well, maybe I will.
Do it.
I
mean,
like
it's
it.
like
I like
it's
it.
the difference between like $20 and $30. Just
I also bought a large green screen, and you guys don't. I mean, I don't have it with me right now, but I got a 10x10, and it's freaking ridiculous because my shipping container is like 7 foot by like 7 foot, so there's not enough room in the shipping container for the green screen. And I got sick of moving around all the fabric for like months and months and months, and I eventually just like cut the bottom off, and I cut it too short. So now I've got like, you guys could see part of my floor during the stream if we ever do like the wide zoom out thing. So it's
Beautiful, Will.
definitely
Beautiful.
buy a big one and cut it to the correct shape instead of being a silly goose like me and cutting it to the wrong shape.
Well, yeah, to cap off though, definitely tune in this Sunday. There is a lot of interesting things going on. One of the scariest things, or more like pathetic, I should say, is that Vitalik, obviously he needs to buy his girlfriend a lot of really cool stuff, and he's been selling his Ethereum. And I like, dude, you need to break up with that girl, bro. Like, come on, man. We need you to pump Ethereum. Let's go. But yeah, other than that though, quite frankly, dude, it's think about this. If Richard Hart started just dumping Hex, like, oh man, that would hurt so much. That would ruin the community. And freaking yeah, then we got Vitalik doing it. I want to cry.
Well, so
but
we got something special. That's all I had. We got something special over here on Pulse Chain. We're
do.
not like those ETH boys.
Yeah,
go ahead and continue that.
But no, and then we got one more special thing, and I don't know when we're gonna talk about this, but I'll go ahead and mention it here. We got CZ getting out of jail.
Yes,
he's a main character.
Yep. Excellent. So that's that wraps up what you had for stuff going on in the near future, Nate.
Exactly,
Awesome.
Mr. McGettit. Where can people find you?
You can find me in the Telegram. I don't have so.
Uh-oh.
Hear me?
Did the audio cut out?
Yeah, my headset's dying, so it's coming in and out. So I gotta kind of wrap my stuff up here. You can find me in the Telegram next to Zenith over there. Did we have any other questions? I know we already did where we think the book should be.
1,000 hours. Calling it.
I have. Oh yeah, 1,000 hours is what Zenith says. I said 0 hours. I believe, Mrs. Producer, you said 5. Nate, did you ever give an hours number?
Yeah, I still don't get that hours thing. I'm still confused as all hell by it.
So like
just 10,000 hours is they say that you need 10,000 hours of something to be a master of anything. So on your journey from knowing nothing to being a master, where does it fall on the 0 to 10,000 scale?
Well, is this including practice or like study, research, practice all together?
Oh,
this is like my personal interpretation of the question is like, where would you recommend someone start learning this? Like obviously you don't teach someone how to like charge, like do a cavalry charge while riding a horse with a saber until after they've first learned how to hold a sword and how to ride a horse. So you don't teach them like move number 3 before move number 1 and 2. So like where in someone's journey of mastery would this be the most appropriate to start learning?
Definitely 100 hours.
100 hours.
You need some overall basics first, and then when you start putting things out into the world, right? When you start trying to, well, now that I think about that though, because you do need to take in the information first. So yeah, actually now I'll change my mind. 5 hours.
5 hours. Excellent. Z, you're voted off the island.
Hey,
me, Mrs. Producer,
I said 1,000 hours
Nate.
because suffering is required. I want you to struggle. I want you to taste a little bit of victory, a little bit of success, and then come back to the drawing board and understand why you tasted the difference between those things, whether it was bitter defeat or sweet, sweet victory. You got to know. And then from there, only then will you value the information that is provided here.
You know what, Mr. Miyagi, you've got a point. they do need to do the wax on and the wax off and the wax on and the wax off a bazillion times before. You know what? I'll give you. I'm not going to change my answer, but I will concede that your answer is very well thought through, and that's some good sound logic and reasoning. So, excellent. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels. It's time for me to read the end of the show, copywriting and everything, and I need to make sure that I've got the right one pulled up here. But I want to thank all of you for spending your valuable time with us here on the Degen Roundtable. As Agent J often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset. We appreciate you spending that time here with us. Mrs. Producer, go ahead and get that trigger figure ready. It's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to degen responsibly.